We're making fried chicken today, but I want to put it to the test and see if brining your chicken beforehand actually makes a difference in flavor and texture. If you don't know what brining is, it's usually a water and salt solution. You can also use pickle juice, which I'm going to use today, and you can also use buttermilk. There's a wide range of different things you can use. Just means soaking a protein or something in that solution. It just helps maintain moisture, adds intense flavor via osmosis, and you can add all sorts of different things to it, herbs, spices. The world's pretty much your oyster when it comes to flavoring. Now, the amount of chicken you use for this recipe depends on how much you want to make. I'm using 6 pieces of bone-in and skin-on chicken thigh, 3 for the brine and 3 without, just so we can test the two. And the amount of flour mix as well will be more than enough for this. Probably go up to about 10 pieces of chicken. If you use any more, you will have to increase the amount on that, and I'll leave details about that in the description. Also, if you don't want to use chicken thigh and you want to use drumsticks or chicken wings, times will vary as well, just because the chicken's a little bit smaller. And again, all details about that in the description. Now, getting this started, we're going to add 3 of our pieces of chicken into a bowl. Pour over our pickling brine. In this case, I'm using pickle juice. Just make sure all of that chicken is fully submerged. Now, I will quickly say, if you don't want to use pickle juice, water and salt is completely fine. 1 cup of water to 1 tablespoon of salt. If you're going to be using this, use about 5 cups of water and about 5 tablespoons of salt. Just heat the water up in a saucepan, add the salt, mix it all through and allow it to dissolve, and then completely cool it in the fridge before you go ahead and do this step. Once this is soaked, either in the pickle juice, buttermilk, or even a water and salt solution, we can place this in the fridge for a minimum of 4 hours, up to 24 hours. For the flour mix, add 2.5 cups of flour into a bowl. This is just plain all purpose. 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of sweet paprika, about a teaspoon of chili powder, it's completely optional, 1/3 of a cup of salt. Don't worry, it's not too much because this is a large amount of flour mix. 1/3 of a cup of ground black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of dried ground sage. Then use a whisk. Just mix this all together. What you'll have by the end of it is something that looks like this. We can just pop this aside for the time being. Now, I didn't just want to make fried chicken, so we're also making a coleslaw. It's fresh, it's delicious, and it's super easy to make. What I have in this bowl is 100 grams of white cabbage and 100 grams of red cabbage, even though it's purple. Just make sure they are nice and thin and take out any chunky bits, especially that core. Along with that, we also need 1/2 of a red onion. Slice off both ends, peel it, and then slice this nice and thin the whole way across in a half-moon position. You can also take the core out if you want, or leave it in, it's up to you. We're also going to need 2 spring onions or scallions. Thinly slice these the whole way across. You can make them a little bit chunky if you wanted to, just for a bit of extra texture. And I just usually add the whole lot here as well. I usually save the green stems for garnish, but just chuck the whole lot in. Last but not least is 5 grams of flat leaf parsley. This is completely optional. You don't have to use it, and you don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch just for this small amount. It's just a waste of money and time. Scrunch this up and then roughly chop. Just make sure there's no large leaves or stems. For the dressing, add 100 grams of plain Greek yogurt into a small mixing bowl. This is just a little bit different to what you might usually see for a coleslaw dressing. Add 2.5 tablespoons of macadamia oil. Now, this can be expensive, so if you don't want to use it or you don't even have it in your house already, just use extra virgin olive oil, it's completely fine. 1.5 tablespoons of honey, just for a little bit of sweetness. Cut a lemon in half, and then just squeeze it over your hands. It's just going to catch any seeds. You can also use a citrus juicer if you've got one of those. Season to taste with a little bit of salt and also some cracked black pepper, 20 cracks worth. Let's then give this a quick mix around with a whisk. Just make sure all of those ingredients are combined. And you should have something that looks like this. Let's then add that dressing into all of our coleslaw mix. And then just give all of this a really good mix through. Make sure everything's coated in that beautiful fresh dressing. Once that's all mixed through, have a nice beautiful coleslaw like this. We can place this in the fridge until we're ready to serve. Now, for our chicken, just have a pot of oil. This is vegetable oil here, and we're just going to place this over a high heat and bring it up to 170 degrees Celsius. When the oil is at the correct temperature, we'll start off with our unbrined chicken. So this can all go into our flour mix. Coat this around really well, making sure you get in all of those little nooks and crannies. And you'll have something that looks like that. Shake off any excess flour and then place these into the hot oil, doing so away from yourself, that way they won't splash back at you. We're going to fry these off for about 12 to 15 minutes, just until they're golden brown and obviously cooked in the center. It is also a good idea to flip the chicken over a couple of times, just to get that even color all over. Now after about 15 minutes, you have these beautiful golden pieces of chicken. Just carefully remove them and place them onto a wire rack. You can also place them on paper towel. And before we cook the next batch, just make sure this comes back up to 170 degrees Celsius, otherwise the chicken will be soggy and it won't be a fair and even test. Now with our brine chicken, we do want to pat this dry, so place this onto some paper towel, and then just pat it completely dry. If we don't do this, when we go to fry this, the moisture will just make it not crispy, and also your chicken will be extremely dark. I did actually test it out to see how it worked and wasn't very happy with the results. So make sure you do pat this as dry as possible. When that's done, we can start adding it into that flour mix. Just make sure you don't bring any paper towel along with you. Same as before, just give it a good dusting. Make sure everything's completely coated. Then when the oil's back at temp, place the chicken away from you again and fry for another 12 to 15 minutes. With all of that done, we're then left with our fried chicken. We've got the unbrined and then the brined. Beautiful colors on both. Let's then serve the chicken up. Don't forget about our coleslaw. And you can also serve this up with some pickles. And then what we've created is this fried chicken. We've got the brined, the unbrined, a little bit of coleslaw and some pickles as well. This looks absolutely incredible. Now, once that's all plated up, we can then try both of them. Let's pick our winner, see which one's best. And this right here is the one that's not been brined, so we can then dig in. And then this one is the brined one. Now, out of these two, there's a clear winner. The brined one takes the cake. It's got more flavor, more moisture, a little bit more texture from that crispiness, but it is a little bit darker just due to the excess moisture. So try and pat it as dry as possible. With the unbrined one, it wins for convenience though, just because you can have it ready in about 25 minutes. You don't have to worry about soaking it or doing it overnight. If you are doing the brined one, it is easier just to make it a day in advance. So if you know you wanted chicken tomorrow, make it today, get it in the fridge and have it soaking overnight. As for the coleslaw, probably feels a little bit out of place in this recipe because I'm doing a test between two chickens, but it is absolutely delicious and I highly recommend you try it as well. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, consider subscribing and leave a comment for the algorithm. It all really helps me out. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.